Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Big Rostermania developments last night with Drazah OUT released officially by the Los Angeles Thieves, but also big changes on what might happen with the iLLeY Arcitys situation, the rumoured trio that iLLeY had with Awakening and Huke apparently now breaking down, but also an update on the subliners, what's going on with this Priest at Sib situation, and why have the stories been so mixed on this over the last few days. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. We'll dive straight in. Firstly, from Real here, because there's been some rumours which of the Spanish guys, if any, are going to go to the Florida Mutineers. Is it going to be Heretics? Is it not? We don't think so anymore. But we still think that it's probably going to be some Spanish guys, and Real may be getting ready for something like that, so I guess we'll have to stay tuned on that one. There's also this that was noted, that iLLeY and Arcitys as a duo have been playing once again together quite a lot lately. This was just from a few hours ago here, Scrappy doing a 4v4 Cold War Chow, those two on the same team. Arcitys, I believe, was playing some series last night also with and against iLLeY. So those two, I thought this was going to be a duo for some time. Then the rumours were emerging recently that iLLeY had decided to go a different direction with his team for next year. And Octane was like, well, maybe iLLeY just sketched on Arcitys, and that's why for a couple of weeks we didn't really see these guys play with each other too much at all. However, the story there might have changed, and before we get into that, we'll also mention this. Intel says, understand that Arcitys is no longer under contract with Los Angeles Guerrillas. Now, it's difficult to say exactly what's happened here, because Arcitys was signed, as was Spart, let's not forget, to a 2+1 year deal, I believe. So this was at the start of the Modern Warfare 2 season, 2+1 year deal. Arcitys did the 1 year, as did Spart, and now there's another year on the contract before then another potential extension year could come into effect. Not sure why LAG really did those deals, but whatever. So if they want to get Arcitys out of that contract, they'd have to pay him off, I would imagine, for that year, or for at least a significant portion of it. And therefore I thought, well, maybe Arcitys just stays around. Maybe Arcitys wants to go though, right? Maybe he wants out of the contract, wants to go to a different organisation. So we'll see what happens there. But he did remove LA Guerrillas from his bio, but now it's back in his bio, and it still is as of recording. So yeah, I don't know, but apparently Arcitys and LAG are parting ways. Another fumble from LAG, to be honest. But I think that, you know, we'll see what Arcitys goes, because he might go with iLLeY somewhere else, and that might be what's been happening behind the scenes, that iLLeY and Arcitys want to team up, as we believe that they did at least, but maybe it wasn't going to happen on LA Guerrillas, and now if Arcitys gets released on that contract, he can go somewhere else, especially when Intel also follows up and says, I understand that this team of three is no longer happening, and this iLLeY, Awakening and Huke trio, we thought they might partner up with Standy as well somewhere. The tricky thing is that you can probably market yourself around as a team of two. Slasher and Priest apparently are doing that. They're saying, hey Boston, hey Rokkr, hey Surge, we're a team of two. If you guys want to build a team around us, go for it. And someone's going to say, yeah, great, that's a good duo. We can build our ARs around them, bring them in. Slasher, Priest are both world champions now, and figure something else out from there. When you've got a team of three, it becomes a little bit more difficult, right? Because organizations, coaches, general managers will say, okay, we like iLLeY and Huke, but we're not so sure on Awakening. Or we like iLLeY and Awakening, we're not so sure on Huke. We want to do our own things. So it becomes more challenging, and especially when they apparently talk to Standy and were like, hey, do you want to be our fourth in this case? And he's like, yeah, sure. But is any organization going to say, great, that's a ready-made team of four, let's give it a go? Maybe not. Maybe they want other players. And that might be one of the reasons why this apparently is broken apart. What does that mean for Awakening and for iLLeY and all this? Just because if Arcitys and iLLeY, if we assume they're going to team up, and the fact that iLLeY and Huke apparently had conversations with teaming as well, you might think that Arcitys, iLLeY, Huke could be an interesting trio to start off that, you know, maybe just Arcitys for Awakening in that scenario and see where it goes from there. As I said before, I'm not sure that I especially like it, but we'll see what happens down the line if they do indeed become a thing anywhere. And there's also been a China COD League making their thoughts known on the matter as well. There was also this that came out of the Minnesota Rokkr last night, kind of cryptic, and I wonder what you guys think this means. It's pretty obvious what it's trying to pretend that it means, that there's 4 players, one from each franchise represented by these colours. Now, the blue you'd think could only realistically be the Seattle Surge, the orange would be Vegas Legion, the green could be probably either Boston or OpTic potentially, and then the purple could either be Rokkr themselves bringing a player back, or it could be Toronto. So people have been looking at this and trying to figure out what the roster's going to be, right? Are they going to build around, you know, let's say they bring back Attach or something, or maybe they even build around Accuracy. They bring him back from the Seattle Surge, put Temp there from Vegas potentially, then either someone formerly of OpTic like a Ghosty, but I'm not so sure about that. I think it's more likely they try and get someone like Nero maybe, or Vivid or something, formerly of that Boston team, and then maybe either keep Afro from their own team, keep Cammy or something. But I've mentioned a lot of ARs, and they need some SMGs. So there's so many possibilities for what this could mean. But if it does turn out that their roster indeed is one player from each, because, you know, this could also be Standy, right, in the, you know, from Vegas Legion. That's also possible if that's what they're getting at here. But there's so many variations that it's impossible to go through all the possibilities. But Jacob L says, I understand this, and he actually comes back with, this I believe is a copy pasta from Rod/Breslau back when Dr. Disrespect was banned off Twitch. And, you know, he basically said, hey, I know the sources, I know what's happened here, but I'm not going to tell anyone. So I don't know if that's Jacob L saying that, yeah, I know what's happening here, but I'm not going to tell anyone in the same way. So I guess we'll see. But if it does turn out the rumors start emerging over the coming days and there are players in those various different franchises, then I guess we'll see. Of course, if it was Toronto, the only option would be Hicksy there, right? Because we're pretty sure everybody else is staying on that Toronto camp for the time being. This, though, from the Los Angeles Thieves yesterday, confirming that Drazah's officially gone. We saw the video from Envoy just yesterday. I'm not going to share the one from Drazah because there wasn't really that much said in this, to be fair, but towards the end it was kind of interesting. He mentions his relationship specifically with Kenny, says that, like, you know, just got it with him really well, will never, you know, have a friend like him in the Call of Duty scene he doesn't expect again, and also mentions at the end, like, hey, chow me next year. Make sure you're going to chow me next year somewhere. So kind of implying that the Kenny release is either happening soon. Maybe it's going to happen today, right? I mean, we've had Envoy just 2 days ago, Drazah yesterday, Kenny potentially today. Octane's already long gone right into retirement. So, you know, it's tough for Thieves fans right now. And I guess with Envoy being released and Drazah being released, we can expect announcements from Toronto and FaZe respectively in the relatively near future. And as Drazah says, from rookie to world champion, I'll remember this team for the rest of my life. Shout out these guys. Truly felt like a family. And yeah, as Kenny says in the replies, respectfully, I'm going to have to put you down next year. Also pull up on Monopoly for me so I get another 3 wins. It's really funny stuff. And yeah, it's just a shame that Thieves have collapsed in this way after being such a great organization and contended for many years. They're going to have to go through a big rebuild. There's no doubt about it going forwards. And of course, Envoy here in the replies. So it's tough for Thieves. I think they can get back to where they want to be. But this season, I think if you're a Thieves fan, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And yeah, many Thieves fans are probably feeling like Josh is right now, trying to hold on to these guys at all costs. But unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen for them. Now, we've also got to talk about this New York subliner situation because this is a really confusing one, what's happened on this over the last few days. Zuma was part of the subliners for some time. I'm sure he has some good contacts and sources with what's going on over there. But what Zuma's been saying on stream and what the general perception seems to be has been markedly different. If you guys are unfamiliar with the story, after the World Championship, Kismet was a completely free agent. They needed to re-sign him to a new deal. They probably signed him to a significantly higher salary deal than before, and Priester, they decided to renegotiate there and bring him down a little bit in terms of salary. Priester, I can't imagine, was particularly happy about this, but the argument was that if Hydra, Kiz and Skies really wanted Priester around, they would have kept him around and they'd have found a way to do so. But it was becoming clear a few days after, like all the OpTic, the FaZe stuff was going on at the time, and then it was becoming known that maybe Priester was an option because the contract negotiations were falling through, and it seemed like they were looking at alternatives for Priester in their starting team. Turns out we then get the announcement from Jacob Hale that, yeah, this is done, the negotiations fell through, Priester's gone, Sib's coming in, and now Priester and Slasher, potentially a team of two on the market looking for options as it stands. So that's what we believed, and you can talk about whether that's a good or a bad decision for, you know, until the sun goes down, to be honest. But then Zuma came out, and we saw this clip yesterday where he says, don't be so sure on this one, right? Don't be so convinced that this is a done deal yet. Priester might be back. So that's what he said then. But then last night, Ronnie says it's done, like tick in the box, like this is sorted. And all we've heard from a number of sources is that it's a done deal. But yet there are other people saying that it's actually not a done deal and Priester might return. If he did, I'm sure the chemistry culture would be a bit of a problem for them to fix up just because they tried to drop him, it seems. But they did just win champs, and they did have a great culture, so maybe they could make it work. But then Zuma says last night that he's speaking to his source, and his source is now saying, oh, well, actually, maybe I just got that one wrong.
But all I'm saying is my source said, wait, for real? I don't know. Maybe I was just wrong. Like, bro, what? Like, bro, this person was literally like, no, like, this is 100% happening. Like, don't this and that. Boom, boom, boom. Like this. You got it all wrong. And this and that. That's what my source was saying. What the f? And exactly what I'm going to text him is a bunch of fucking question marks. What is going on in the fucking New York camp? I am so confused. When all this gets announced, I can't wait to talk about this. I can't wait to talk about this, bro.
So this was the tweet in question here from Ronnie, who puts the tick in the box last night and says, this is done. I mean, over the last few days, we've seen tweets from Ronnie kind of saying, oh, yeah, you know, the Pred thing's locked in, the Kenny thing's locked in, the contract is either signed or getting there. And I guess he believes with pretty good confidence that this is now a done deal and Simp to Nuke is a thing. And I'm pretty sure this is a thing, like, you know, from what I understand. But it's pretty wild as to why there was so much, you know, difference in opinion here. Right? Why was Zuma pretty confident that they might go back on this? And was it just one source? Was it multiple sources? And JoeDeceives does shed a bit of light on this actually with a very interesting kind of cryptic tweet again last night. Fun wrinkle in Rostermania this year. Teams agents trying to spread misinformation. Now, we kind of saw a bit of this, I think, with the Toronto situation where it's a little bit unclear what happened there. But in the early days of Rostermania, it was the general belief that Toronto had run out of money and they would try to blow things up, sell CleanX, sell Insight, this type of stuff to get some money in, keep Scrap around, hold him hostage and all this. And, you know, Ben was talking about that at the time, but there was also the discussion that, well, maybe we're not getting the full picture. Maybe certain people internally at Toronto are leaking things to try and suit their own agenda internally. And he also mentions that agents, so I know a couple of the agents that do this in the space, and I know that there's a game of politics and information that is sometimes played here. But it's interesting to hear that certain, especially like some of these internet accounts, right, that have tweeted stuff off just one source and then it turned out not to be true, are getting duped by, you know, agents and people trying to do things to benefit themselves. It's really interesting the different agendas that you might tend to find. And that might be one of the reasons why we've had like situations that seem unclear. Like we've got certain sources saying one thing, certain sources saying another thing, and we still don't really know for sure until the official announcements come through. As Ben says, look, nothing crazy to leak at the moment, really slow, no teams that are left in the mix are rushing into decisions, but I'm sure over the next couple of weeks we're going to get the Bostons, the Thieves, and these teams like locked down, you would think. But I guess teams aren't really rushing into things anything crazy. And just to mention when Brian Sats thought this is pretty cool, who is matched up in the most finals against each other. So you've got 8 tier with Scump versus Zuma, Slasher, Clay v Formal, Kremp v Jacob, Kremp v Slasher. There's a few at 9, Zuma actually and Attach appear here, but 10 separating themselves is Clay is on both of these. Pretty impressive really to think about. And of course part of this is the fact that Clay wasn't always on the teams with these guys, so Scump and Kremp, it's difficult for them to play each other in too many finals because the majority of the time they were on the same team. But Scump and Clay, Kremp and Clay were, you know, for a long time separate apart on various different teams. So, you know, pretty cool that Clay holds the record there, I guess. Maybe not a surprise, but I guess that's technically what we're looking at. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Thought this was really nice here from Financial Nerd as well to close out the video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.